All right.
And we are live.
All right, folks. Scott and I are back this week for another great topic. So this week we're talking about how to speak dog, essentially how to talk to your dog, and to kind of understand what your dog is saying. Can you hear me over there, Scott?
I can hear you. Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right, you can hear me now. Great.
Word.
All right. So essentially, how to understand and speak to your dog, because like I tell my clients all the time, our dogs are speaking to us. Does your dog speak to you, Scott, or do you think your dog's speaking to you? Before I even get into it, I just want to know your thoughts.
Yes, he speaks to us with his eyes, with his bark, with his stance. When he sits a certain way, when he just won't leave the counter where there's treats. There's many ways he speaks to us, but he has gotten over as he's gotten older. He's almost going to turn 5 in a few days.
Yep.
He's learned to whine with more intent.
Yeah. Yep. And those are all, eye contact, the barking. So I'm going to go through those, but they're definitely speaking to us. And do you generally know what he's saying?
I would say 60% of the time. There's some whines where like, I don't know what you want. If you want a treat, if you want to go outside. And he's not the type to, because we live in a condo. He hasn't really gotten the thing where he goes to the door when he wants to go out. He just sort of looks at us or like,
don't you know, or I want to go outside.
Panting is a big cue. Panting's a big cue. So we're like, and then when we're at my parents', who's a home, big country home, that sort of thing. So then he just sort of stares at the door and we're like, okay, finally you're telling us. But otherwise.
Exactly. And my dog does the same thing. My older one, like I'll be walking by in the kitchen and then I'll see her sitting at the door and I'm like, can you tell anyone that you wanted to go out? So there's different ways they talk to us. And the more you understand what your dog is saying, the better you can help them. And so, one thing, like you said, you notice in your dog's eyes and the body language. So eyes are like the first thing that you can kind of look to kind of communicate with your dog. So staring at a dog, you don't want to do that head on. And if you think about it, like if you're sitting there, you can actually feel someone when they're like glaring and staring at you. And so dogs are no different and they don't like that. And so if you see a dog and you just don't want to stare at them head on, and I know not a lot of people, I guess some people in my family, AKA sometimes my husband, they like to do the staring contests with the dogs and stuff like that. But that's a perceived threat for a dog. So you just want to try not to do the straight eye contact. And sometimes you'll see dogs where you'll stare at them and they'll kind of look away and kind of go like that. That's actually polite in the doggy world. So if you see a dog like doing this or that, they might think they're a little cute, but it's actually them trying to, say, hey, I come in peace and stuff like that. So the eye contact is important. And in training and in general, dogs don't understand English. And I know folks like, oh, my dog understand, when I say this and that. It's not that they truly understand, because I do have clients that speak like Russian to their dogs or Spanish to their dogs. And even when in training, when I'm telling my clients, hey, choose a word, especially in recall, like what word do you want to use to have your dog come to you? You can use any word you want. It doesn't have to be like come or whatever it may be, because dogs understand basically hand gestures and body language. So in addition to you saying the word, you're doing some type of movement around it, whether you're doing it intentionally or not. And that's what they really understand, your body language and the tone that you're using. Do you notice that in your dogs, like certain things you'll say to them and even without saying it, they'll know like your body language, like how you're feeling?
Yes, there's certain cue words like park. We say a certain person's name. If we say let's go, or if we say we'll generate his excitement, if we say something like who's there, he barks, he just automatically barks and runs to the door. And then there's like other cue words where we think we're like, how do you know that word and that sort of thing? But like you said, it's more of like a cue word. So he's like, oh, when this word happens, this thing happens. And so he picks up on a lot.
And like I talk a lot about, like dogs love routine. So even if it's part of the routine, even if you're not saying that, they know the routine. And if like your posture or what you're doing is part of that, then they start to understand as well. Exactly. And that's why in dog training, one little secret, well, it's not a secret, because once you start training in private training, I tell my clients this: we always start off each command doing like a hand gesture gesture or some type of body signal first. We don't actually say the word because we want them to understand. They understand better, body gestures and hand movement. So, when we're asking them to sit, we just do our hand like that so they can, raise their head and it pushes them down to sit on their bum. And so once you do a hand gesture movement, then you can add the word on. And so that goes to show you, like, even in training, it's still the same. They understand the body language more than the verbal. So just be mindful of that. And I talk about too, we can inadvertently cause our dogs to basically no, is it that? No, we can. No, speaking of body language, what I was talking about is inadvertently causing our dogs to feel some type of way. Like, for instance, I talk about potty training. Like, even if you're not truly upset and you say to your dog, oh my gosh, or, oh my God, you did it again. They perceive that as, like, not anger, but just they can feel the sadness, or they know the body language. So in return, they get kind of sad. So you just want to be intentional about, the things you're doing around your dogs and things like that.
Yeah.
I also talk a lot about how dogs are already talking to you, and essentially they're when your dogs come up to you and sit next to you and they're just looking at you, that's essentially them talking to you. And a lot of times you'll know what your dog wants because you just know your dog. Yeah. So my dog, for example, when one of them, say it's like midday in the afternoon, he come nudges me. I know that he wants to be rubbed and he wants his quality time. So I call it like your dog saying please. So it's essentially, instead of them barking at you for things they want, they're sitting for attention. Yeah. And so what you want to do in that manner, you want to get your dog in a habit of saying please, because in return, you'll start to understand what they're saying in their body language. So what that means, like even for dinner, having them sit and then putting their bowl down before you go out the door, them sitting and you going out first. It just teaches manners. And I know it sounds funny, like, how does a dog sitting each time help you understand their body language? It's more than that. It's like, your dog. For instance, if your dog were to come right now and sit and stare at you, what would you think he wanted?
It's a time of day too. So lunchtime, he either wants his food or he wants to go out.
Exactly.
Probably food, but maybe want to go out if he hasn't been out for a while, right? So and especially if he's like panting, then maybe he more wants to go out. If he's just sitting there staring at me, probably wants to his food type of thing. So
exactly. So just, thinking about this, you're absolutely right. The time of day, thinking about what time they're sitting. Okay, is it lunchtime? They may want lunch and things like that. And, now that I'm speaking about body language, you may not actually think about it, but now that you're in this live or folks are watching it, start to look at your dog's body language when you're asking them things and see if there's a pattern. Like, for instance, my foster here, just a sidetrack, if you hear whining in the background, that's because he wants my attention. And I know that he just got up because he heard me say attention. And so now he's walking off because I gave him attention just by talking about him. So he'll be fine. But that's just a example of, reading your dog's body language. Now he's going off to lay down, so he'll be fine. Some examples, when your dog rolls over, that's them saying, hey, I want you to pet your belly. That's a real simple one. A big one too that you want to be mindful of, if your dog is yawning, licking, cowering, and things like that, or they have a stiff body, that means they're stressed. And those are things that you want to be concerned about and address them. Depending on the situation and the context, you address those differently. But those are all signs that something may be a little bit off, and you want to kind of, assess your dogs and things of such. A big one that people get misconceived by is the tail wagging. A tail wagging is not always a happy tail. It doesn't always mean joy. A slow tail wagging can mean caution, like if a dog's out in nature and they're kind of staring off. A stiff tail can mean caution and sometimes fear, but definitely something to be concerned about. So you just want to make sure that you're looking at your dog's posture when you're moving about, on walks or even in a home and things like that. And so right now, Scott has pulled up the doggy body language, and No, I give this to my clients, and it's great to hang on the fridge. You know, you can always download these off the internet. But some common ones that you'll see is the one where your dog's looking alert right there, where the ear is standing straight up. And you'll see that a lot of times when you're taking your dog on a walk and they see something off in a distance that they're interested in or that they may not have seen before, they'll look alert like that. You'll see them looking threatened or angry if they're trying to make something go away. So a lot of time, if they're reactive on walks, you'll see them look threatened or angry like that towards another dog or a person, or maybe a location. It just depends. A lot of times in puppies, you'll see the friendly 1, 2, 3, 4 rows down when they're just, you know, kind of gazing and stuff like that. But just kind of looking at some of these, I know a lot of times when I give these to my clients or I show them this, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, like them doing like the little play bows, them saying hello. And they do that with dogs too. And that's like saying, hey, hi, you know, I come in peace. So it's like some really cute ones there. Do you see any that your dog does in there?
The play bow is a big one. I know, like, I'm friendly or I'm ready to play. He'll do that with other dogs.
Yeah.
You know, that one, the stressed one, the panting, the yawn, he'll do that sometimes when you can tell he's like, he really wants to go out or there's something sort of bugging him. Which one else is there? Yeah, like there's a lot of them that are pretty familiar, I would say, like the suspicious one, especially at night for whatever reason. He gets very suspicious about like the streets, like just looking down the street.
Yes.
I'm like, sometimes I just wonder if he sees ghosts or something like that, because I'm like, there's nothing there, but you're staring very hard down that street.
You're like, it's Halloween. I wonder if something's going on out there.
Over there. Yeah. But so.
Yep. And so one of them I always talk about too is the stress ones, because those can also look like a dog's just having like, you know, just scratching themselves or whatever it may be. And so again, like I always talk about, look at the context around which it's happening. You know, if you know you have your dog in a new environment and you see them doing this and that, more likely than not they're a little bit stressed out. But if they're in the woods and they just finished rolling over, then it's probably that they're trying to, you know, get something off. So you just want to make sure, like some of these that may look like a common everyday, you know, doggy behavior, that is not something different, you know?
Yeah, when you start looking at them, I found that like you start to become way more aware of them and your dog when you review this sheet a few times, and you go back and you walk your dog, and then you come back and review. You're like, oh wow, and now I recognize a lot more things, and you can actually they are really kind of like talking to you quite a bit with their posture and with like their scratches, their shakes, and their, like you said, their tail. It's pretty crazy when you start to actually become aware of it all. So
exactly. And also another thing is, what was I going to say? I think I lost my train of thought about body posture. If I do, I'll come back to it. But I'll come back to it. And it was something really important too. Even if I forget it, I'll post it in the comments, because I always do this. Hopefully I'll remember. But moving on, barking. Also is another way our dogs talk to us. And there's different versions of barking. So if you hear your dog and it's like a continuous rapid bark in a medium pitch range, so that's usually like a territorial barking. I'm not going to try to, I was going to try to do it, but basically, if you think about your dog, like when they see a mailman or something like that, that type of bark, that's like a territorial barking, like, hey, you know, you're at my house or location or things like that. And so that's another way our dog's trying to speak to, you know, a person, whether it may be good or bad, you know, that type of barking is just another way they bark. Also, the non-stop barking that's broken up in intervals, that's your dog essentially saying not go. So notice like when you start, that's the barking, you'll see separation anxiety too. So if you start to put on your clothes, grab your keys and stuff, they're following you around, they're ruff, 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 stop, you move, ruff, 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 stop. That's a good one. That's the barking where they're saying don't go. If your dog does the one single yelp, that high pitched bark, that's like a sudden like ouch or like surprise or some type of pain. So maybe something happened to your dog and you didn't know, and you touch a spot. That's essentially, you know, ouch, you know, I'm in pain. Or like the bark when you step on their tail, that's essentially them saying like, ouch, that hurt. So that's another way they're speaking to us. The stutter bark in a medium high pitch range. So with that is okay. I'm gonna try to do it. Okay.
Okay.
So it sounds like roof, roof,
Okay. Okay.
like that, and they're
Yeah.
like bowing down low. So that's essentially saying that they want to play. But actually,
Okay.
the bark that I was making, it does sound like a kind of a bark that where they wouldn't want to play. And
Yeah.
I do get that from my clients, like, oh, when my dogs are playing, they have like this low growl, and I'll hear them saying like that, and it sounds really
Yeah.
angry. But again, look at the whole context of the situation. You know,
Yeah.
if they're just playing and they look like they're having fun, then and they're low ground, then they're probably having fun. And I always
Exactly.
saying, if your dogs are playing, if push comes to shove, if you're uncertain, pull them away. If they go back to playing, then they're fine. If they don't, then you want to have them go away. But that's another bark where they're kind of interpreting what they're saying. And also that the beginning bark will sound low, then it kind of goes to a sharp pitch range. It's kind of like the excitement bark, and I'm definitely not going to repeat that. So
Okay.
that's like the bark, like when you're coming home and they're excited to see you, or
Yeah.
you're pulling out something they really enjoy. Those are all like excitement barking that they kind of do. So basically, to kind of wrap this all up, you want to be sure that if you're not start looking at your dog's body language when you're asking them to do things, or when you have them out for, on a walk, just making sure that you're communicating with them. If you don't know where to start, or if you're like, this still sounds kind of strange to me, start having your dog say please for everything. So just having them raising the bowl, having them sit for meals and stuff like that, so you're creating your own language with the dogs, if that makes sense. If you already have your language with your dog, keep it up, teach your friends and family, so everyone would be on the same page. But ultimately, just start checking out what your dog's doing when you're at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think you're going to be doing with your dog, Scott, as far as body language?
I think I'm gonna be looking a lot more at it and probably paying attention to it. And
Yeah.
he's pretty good with the sits and that sort of thing. So just working on that stuff, and like probably paying more attention to like the stress shakes, and sort of looking at looking out for those yawns and those, and he's not just tired and that sort of thing, and the lip snapping and that sort of thing, right? So it's nice to always revisit and then go back and then hang out with him and be like, okay, what's really going on, and have a good idea when things pop up too, right? You can sort of assess a little quicker and sort of get to the meat of it a little bit too. But it's nice to have that conversation.
I remember now. Very important. So you being able to read your dog's body language will also help you manage and prevent unwanted behavior. Because if you understand what your dog's saying, then you can help them in advance, or you can redirect the unwanted behavior. That's a big thing if you're having issues with your dog's behavior. So that's the last thing to wrap it up. So
that's really big though, like especially if your dog's reactive. If you see when the dog gets stiff, like
exactly,
we're pretty good with like reading the street and whatnot, but sometimes we'll just pay attention to him, and he gets stiff, and now it's like, why is he getting stiff? And then we can redirect him and that sort of thing. So definitely huge tip.
Exactly. So reading your dog's body language, folks. So I hope you guys got some good tips from this, and that you guys are going to start reading your body language like in 5 minutes. So I hope you guys join us next week for another great topic. And if you guys want to find me, you guys know where to find me at Down for Paws everywhere. All right. See you guys next week.
Bye, everyone.